Well, guys, I think we're in for the best card of 2019. What is up, guys? This is Godzilla Suplex, and welcome to today's episode as I'll be going over my predictions for the featured fights of UFC 235. But before I get into that, please hit that subscribe button, also hit the notification bell so you get a notification every time I make a video. So guys, let's get into this. This pay-per-view has been announced for March 2nd, and all I have to say is I'm just blown away. I mean, knowing that Jon Jones is also going to be added to this card on top of Tyron Woodley versus Kamaru Usman just says card of the year, hands down. So now let's get to some of the fights, or the bigger fights that everybody's going to be talking about going into this pay-per-view. And the first one I really want to start off with trying to predict is a match that a lot of people just don't know what's going to happen in, because one guy, we all know what he's going to do, and one guy is just this sort of tricky wrestler who we don't know how good his hands are going to be, and that's Ben Askren versus Robbie Lawler, the classic wrestler versus striker matchup. But the first thing I want to say is to all those Ben Askren fans that think that this dude is going to get mopped, you have another thing coming, because the first thing I want to nitpick with is Ben Askren's record against all of these guys. I've seen the highlights, I've seen what he can do, I've seen his wrestling, and you know, cut and dry like pure wrestling, he's probably the best pure wrestler out there, but he's doing it against no name. I'm sorry. No, a lot of people go, oh, you don't know who this and this and that guy is. No, I don't. I don't know who none of those guys are. I've never heard of them in my life. And that 18-0 seems to me more like a you ain't fought nobody for real type, bro. I mean, I'm just sorry. That's just the truth. For all those Ben Askren fans talking about, oh yeah, these are good guys. I'm sure they are good guys. But you know what? These are the best guys, okay? These are the guys who are killers, okay? If you can't keep them on the ground, they're going to get back to their feet. You know, I mean, it's different in the UFC. Guys are so dynamic, and you're finding these guys trying to claw your way to the top. You don't find no scrubs no more. So if you think Ben Askren is just going to go out and dominate this dude, I think you have another thing coming. And for all of us to think Robbie Lawler is going to knock him out, I mean, you have good reason to think so, but I think it's really more than that. But like we always do here at UFC Zilla, it's not about who can be who or who you think is going to win. We got to break it down with scenarios. What happens in the first round? What is it equal in the second round? Can they come back from this in the first round? And all types of scenarios like that. But before we get into the scenarios, let's start off with the fighter goals. What is the goal for Ben Askren in this fight? You know, starting off in the UFC is going to be tough because that striking is going to be so much better than ONE FC. So Ben Askren first, the dude needs to get his footwork down for this fight. That is one of the most important things he could do, because once he's moving side to side, a little bit back, a little bit forward, I think this is going to create opportunities for him to be able to take Robbie Lawler down and keep him there. Something that he also has to do is that every time Robbie Lawler punches, he needs to be level changing, because once he level changes, it's not going to be like Robbie Lawler. It's going to instantly counter with the punch. It's really going to get him thinking, because once he level changes after maybe Robbie Lawler does not hit him with the punch, Robbie Lawler's thinking takedown, which he could come up with another punch, another 1-2 combo, and really have Robbie Lawler on his heels and try to get that decision victory. You know, Robbie Lawler is going to try to come at him with power and back him with the corner. He just needs to stay slippery like a snake and sort of grab him and get him in grappling positions where Robbie Lawler is going to have to worry about that takedown. I mean, really the biggest thing that I'm saying at all of this is that he needs to grab him. There really needs to be no pure striking involved. He really needs to grab him, try standing submissions, and really just switch it up with his hands and feet. He needs to turn over, do the belly roll like a lot of dynamic wrestlers or diamond jiu-jitsu artists do. He needs to really put that in effect in his fight to keep him off the main pattern of Robbie Lawler's great boxing. So what is the keys for Robbie Lawler? And it's just plain simple. Keep this a boxing match, and every time Ben Askren goes for a takedown, try to counter him, get his legs stiff where he cannot move in that many ways, keep him still, and just knock his head off. I mean, it's very simple like that, because once you take away Ben Askren's legs, of course he could turn over and do all these dynamic setups to try and get a takedown, but at the end of the day, the only time he's really dangerous is when he can get his hands around your neck and when he can get you on the ground, where you have to be in constant defense mode. So other than that, on the striking, almost no matter what he does on the feet, Robbie Lawler will have the advantage. So now let's get into some of the scenarios that could happen in this fight. And one likely one in the first round is that Robbie Lawler pressures a lot, before Ben Askren can really get his footing together in the UFC and tries to go for the knockout. I mean, this is a highly likely scenario since it is wrestler versus striker, and maybe Ben Askren will be able to roll out, maybe be able to go to the ground where he'll challenge Robbie Lawler to get on top of him, but Robbie Lawler's not going to fall for that. So in the first round, could Ben Askren survive a barrage from Robbie Lawler? And I think he could, but the thing is that once he starts getting hit, from that pure boxing, is he going to be able to have something to counter against it with his grabs and stuff? It is very funny to think about how this fight could go. But let's say Ben Askren gets in a great flow and is able to get takedowns in the first round. Could Robbie Lawler break out of it and respond? And I really think, to my opinion, Robbie Lawler is going to be dangerous throughout his fight because of his great boxing. Even fatigued, I think he's just like 3 good punch combination away from knocking Ben Askren out. And I think it's going to put major pressure on Ben Askren to constantly keep moving, to constantly try to get the fight to the ground, and to make him constantly keep his head off the center line. But out all this stuff that can happen in the fight, it's gonna be basically Ben Askren moving around Robbie Lawler's great boxing and power. Now, if I had to go with who's gonna win this fight, I'm sorry, Ben Askren do as much moving as possible. I know he's 18-0, but he's been fighting a lot of scrubs, and I think he's never met nobody that has the hands like Robbie Lawler and the consistent boxing. And I think Robbie Lawler gets it done by knockout in the second or first round. But now let's move on to the co-main event of this legendary card. Kamaru Usman versus welterweight champion Tyron Woodley. The first thing I have to say is that what happened to Colby Covington, man? Did he just get put off the map or something? I mean, there's just a whole controversy going on with him, the UFC, how he got moved out of position. But I really do think that the UFC wants to save him for an even bigger card, and that's why they moved to Kamaru Usman to fight Woodley. Now, that's going to be a good match. They know Tyron Woodley's probably going to win. He's probably going to go off and be off for, a good amount of time. And they may want to bring him back October and November to fight Colby Covington on a New York card. That'd be a great co-main event or feature fight. But let's get into this matchup. What are the fire goals for these two guys? And let's just start for the champ, Tyron Woodley. We know Kamaru Usman is a power wrestler. He's going to want to get on top of you and use his power and athleticism to keep you there and start ground and pounding you in the corner of the cage. So what Tyron Woodley needs to do is that he needs to stay sharp on his feet and threaten Usman with the punch and takedown. Because if Usman is at the bottom, he's going to use his power to burn energy to try to get back to his feet, because we know Tyron Woodley is also a great wrestler who is also trained by Ben Askren. So after Ben Askren's fight, he is going to be in Tyron Woodley's corner because he is his wrestling coach. So I thought that was an interesting note. And Tyron Woodley's going to be in his corner for the Robbie Lawler fight, and having knocked out Robbie Lawler himself, Tyron Woodley will be giving Ben Askren advice on defeating Robbie Lawler. I thought that was just interesting to make note of. But yeah, Tyron Woodley needs to stay sharp on his feet, use his power as a threatening tool for Kamaru Usman. And maybe he shouldn't go to the ground, maybe he should, but I really do think he should go to the ground. Keep Kamaru Usman on the ground, keep busting up his face till Kamaru Usman starts getting sloppy and keeps making mistakes and keeps using power until he gets tired. Tyron Woodley needs to conserve energy for the championship rounds, because that's when Usman is going to start to fade because of the physicality of the fight. But now let's get on to the challenger's goals. Kamaru Usman, what he needs to do is very simple, and I very rarely say this for a fighter, but he needs to go in with 2 strategies depending on what happens in the first round. First, if his striking goes good, he just needs to stick to striking and start developing the patterns for Tyron Woodley striking, because those hands are going to be very dangerous. They can easily put him out, and he just needs to be really careful and start seeing the pattern in Tyron Woodley strikes. Then after the first round, if it all goes well, he needs to keep striking, keep back on his feet, use his length to keep Tyron Woodley at distance and start making it a very strike-focused fight. And if Tyron Woodley decides to get too aggressive, take him down to get the extra points. And in the third or fourth, or really in the fourth or fifth round, he's going to still be pretty fresh and will be ready to re-implement his takedown game in the fourth or fifth round, knowing that, he won't gas out, and he'll still be able to finish the fight without getting knocked out. But the second strategy is, if Usman starts getting hit up in the first round, the second round he needs to start mixing up that takedown game. Tyron Woodley might suspect it but that's the way he's going to have to go, because purely at this point, if he's getting hit up by Tyron Woodley in that first round, he needs to start mixing it up. And by the end of the second round, he needs to have at least one takedown on Tyron Woodley going into the third, and repeat this same pattern at the end of the round, going for a takedown. Or, maybe not at the end, but in the middle of the round. This needs to be a recurring pattern of him so he can keep him on the ground using his power and gain points against Tyron Woodley and get a couple strikes on him to try and get the decision victory. But now we have the fire goals out of the way, let's get to some of the scenarios that could happen in this fight. And much like the last fight I just talked about, it is very likely that Tyron Woodley puts the pressure on Usman, starts closing in very quickly in between his long arm range, and starts getting inside and tagging him up and try to go for the knockout. And I doubt that he does this, because Kamaru Usman is going to be light on his feet, and if he starts going in too aggressively, Kamaru Usman is going to run straight into him and push his momentum back with his strength to try and get him on the ground. Now, if you're Kamaru Usman on the ground, do you start trying to go for submission and punches, or do you just keep him there on the guarantee to keep him down and get points? Now, this is a very confusing thing, because he kind of did this with RDA, but I think you got to go for strikes, man. You got to try and hurt Willie in some way, get his head hurting and get him worried about, because down the feet, you could just start keep tagging him and messing up his head, and I think it'll be worth way more points, which is why it's so important for Usman, if he's getting tagged in that first round, to switch it up in the second and third round and start mixing up as best he can to try catch up to Tyron Woodley. But basically, this fight is going to be really, really strategy-like. It's going to come down to that first and, I believe, fourth and fifth round. Those 3 rounds are going to be the most important rounds, because they're going to tell which fighter is going to get the most points. I think this is going to end the decision. I think these fighters are going to be real careful. It might be a little boring, but it's going to be on the edge of your feet action, folks, because if Kamaru Usman can get Tyron Woodley on his back guessing, keep striking him, and maybe get him in a power submission, it is going to be very telling how Tyron Woodley responds. But my prediction is Tyron Woodley wins barely, because I think that right hand is going to connect with Usman and hurt him a couple of times in this fight, and he's going to win by decision. Now, let's get on to our last fight in our main event to be Jon Jones versus Anthony Smith. And what are the fire goals for the GOAT and the GOAT challenger? Starting off with the undisputed champion Jon Jones, he needs to constantly pressure Anthony Smith throughout the fight with his kicks to the leg. Take your time, make Anthony Smith keep on making bad choices, and have him moving forwards towards you, only for you to counterpunch him and then start putting pressure on him, backing him up against the cage and having him defend himself. But do not use too much energy, then back off, get some of your energy back, and then make him come to you, make the same mistakes again, and keep this cycle going every round. And then about in the third round, start going for takedowns. If you get one, the fight's pretty much over. But the most important thing for Jon Jones is keep a steady pace. Anthony Smith could be trying to hang in there for a long time and for the long haul. It doesn't go away easy, so just keep pressuring each and every round and probably gnaw it out to a decision victory. And that is just a strategy for Jon Jones, because it's very simple and it's going to be very repetitive. But for Anthony Smith, what can he do to even come in near contact of being the GOAT? And what he really needs to do, and this is very important, incorporate kicks. He's ready for a boxer, Jon Jones. He's faced so many of them in his lifetime. He's been immune to all their techniques and strategies. So what you have to become a kickboxer. He's not really used to fighting those kind of fighters. He needs to keep his leg off the center line, keep Jon Jones guessing. He's going to have to come to him. He's going to have to use traditional boxing movement, then mix it up with a kick at the end of it. He needs to really grind this out, take as less damage as possible, and try to get a few blitzes on Jon Jones. And hopefully he comes out with the decision victory. But at the end of the day, my prediction is you don't have to even go through the scenarios, because Jon Jones hurt him. Jon Jones is going to go in for the finish. If Anthony Smith stays in there, he's probably going to lose by decision or narrowly get out a decision win. It's really not going to go any other way. Even if he hurts Jon Jones and uses all his energy like Volkan Oezdemir did against him, Jon Jones is just going to come back in the fourth or fifth round and try to finish this guy. So the most important thing for Anthony Smith to do is try to gnaw it out to that fourth or fifth round, really give his all, and see how close can he get or even beat Jon Jones. And that's my prediction. I don't even have to say, because I think it's really just that simple. He's another boxer like Alexander Gustafsson. He hasn't even faced Alexander Gustafsson. So it's really like, buddy, you don't have a chance. You have that, chance like Buster Douglas did against Mike Tyson. But Who knows? You could pull off, if you pull off the perfect game plan and fully take down Jones for 5 rounds. But guys, leave your opinion in the comment section. Who do you think is going to win their matches at UFC 235? And also, here's another question. Who do you think is going to be upset of the night? Will John Jones get upset by Anthony Smith? Will Kamaru Usman upset Tyron Woodley? Who is going to be that upset person of the night? And will it likely happen? Leave all that in the comment section below. This has been the best Gojira in UFC news. Sign off, guys. Until next time.